Welcome to the very first official YouTube vlog for this year, the new year. So today we're going to be training a bit of back today, along with some biceps. So pretty straightforward as well at the start of the new year. But yeah, here we are training at Dohertys gym today, based in the mecca of bodybuilding in Perth. So it's going to be a whole bunch of pull downs, a bunch of rows, a bunch of bicep curls. So quite simple stuff for the start of the year. But we're officially approximately around 12 weeks away from starting our prep, just depending on what the coach says. But yeah, the plan is to try to pack as much muscle as we can throughout the New Year's, along with just make sure we keep everything tight at the same time before we start prep for SZN C for 2026. So very, very exciting stuff. Quite nervous at the same time, considering the fact that we are jumping up a weight category for the very first time after God knows how many years I've been competing. But yeah, it should be fun. Should be great. But yeah, plenty of work to be done, and yeah, let's get straight into it. All right, so we're gonna be doing a bit of warm-up today. Quite simple stuff, to be honest. It's gonna be a mixture of just pull downs, a bit of chin-ups as well. Just mixing the grip handles as we go, just kind of get different tension profiles on certain parts of the movement as well. But once we do our warm-ups, we're gonna be starting with a bit of like close grip pull downs, try to drive our elbow as deep into our torso as much as possible, just to really hit our lats. Then we're going to be doing a bit of bilateral pullovers as well on the cables, a bit of chest supported rows, which over in Dohertys I have a sick Smith machine chest supported row, so we'll be touching on that, and just do a bit of bicep curls along the way. And after that, we'll do a bit of post-session posing as well, because we're going to make sure that we're still in posing conditioning, especially in the off season, which is the most hardest part, and not a lot of people actually focus on their posing throughout the off season. So we'll be sure to kind of keep on top of that throughout the off season, just so we're ready to go, especially when prep starts. So yeah, we're going to be doing at least 2 sets of warm up here, and we're going to do a set of a bit of chin ups as well, just kind of get things going, and yeah, put a bit of sweat on. Alrighty. So personally for me, I actually like doing a bit of like supinated pull down to start off with, just to kind of get my forearms warmed up as well. Considering the fact that it is one of the muscle groups that I tend to fatigue quite quickly this time around. So by just kind of getting it warmed up in the very first warm up, kind of just get things going. So yeah, we'll just do a couple sets in this, really control the squeeze down. Pretty simple stuff. So we just go a little bit heavier in the next set, and yeah, just try to get things firing up as we go. But one thing I do like about, especially this particular lat pull down, is the bar is actually slightly in front of you, so it kind of puts you on a bit of between like a 45 to 30 degree angle on that state. So considering this machine is quite light, it's actually wiser to probably do some form of like single arm pull down for this machine. But considering the fact we're just warming up, we don't really have to do a whole lot on top of that. So now in terms of what type of grip that is suited for you, to be quite honest, it's more of a preference thing. If you do feel a lot more on more with supinated grip, then by all means do more with supinated grip. If you feel a lot better doing more neutral grip, then by all means do neutral grip. There's not really much of a one-way standard of how to do some form of a lat pull down. But yeah, just as long as you're able to really connect with the movement, try to exert as much force as you can, and especially try to maximize your stability as much as possible, just to really exert the most amount of force in doing your set, then by all means do whatever grip that suits for you. So yeah, for me, it's either between a supinated grip or a neutral grip. For me, it doesn't really matter. I'm able to connect it really well. But yeah, if you want to make sure that you're hitting the muscle right, do a bit of experimenting. Not one way is great. All right, it's one more set on these warm-ups on the slightly heavier weight, and then we'll just get to the chin-ups. Yep. Yep. All right, now ready to go. First official exercise will be a close grip pull down. So how my coach Kevin has taught me this is to really dig your elbows real deep down to your torso, just to make sure we're hitting our lats as well, considering the fact that my lower lats is a bit of a weak point on my physique. So it's actually a long time since I've done any sort of close grip, but it feels fucking great when you're actually able to execute it properly as well. Now the key point in this exercise is just to make sure that your spine is at neutral, so you're not getting any sort of over protraction or over retraction to start off with. You want to make sure that scapula is moving naturally all throughout the movement as well, and by doing so, just keeping your spine neutral at the same time. So yeah, we're going to make sure we're not going too heavy to the, in this exercise, so we're not really stopping at the midpoint of the range of motion. Again, the whole point of it is just get full range of motion, get a good nice natural stretch at the very top, and make sure our scapula is protracting naturally while getting that sense of natural retraction down at the very bottom of the movement. So, but yeah, 2 sets of this. First set will be between 6 to 8 reps, so pretty heavy set. Rest a bit, and then we're doing 10 to 12 reps on the second set. So yeah, so let's get this on. Just get a couple of reps in first to kind of get the feel of the movement. That's good. First set of the day, so we'll try to make this count as much as possible. It's the first time I'm actually doing a lat pull down on this particular brand as well, so even if we were to really get a good clean 6 to 8 reps, it kind of gives us a gauge on where to start off with, whether you have to bump down the weight or perhaps even fix up your form throughout the rest of the set. But as long as you collect as much data on each set and actually record that down, that gives you a bit of a little mini goal leading up towards the next rotation of training, just to make sure that you're fixing up whatever nonsense that you're training in the gym. So again, try to collect as much data in your gym, because that will be great for the long run, especially when you're an athlete like myself, as a bodybuilder. Every sort of adjustment you can make, or any sort of potential ways to make the set better, then by all means record your set, get as much detail down as much as you can, and hammer away. So yeah, it's very important to record your sets. It's not too bad. That was at least 5 clean reps. The rest of it is a bit dirty, but as long as we kind of gauge on where to start off with. So I reckon next week I'll definitely get 6 easily for that set, and from there on it's just a slow progression in training and total volume as well. So if there's a certain rep range mark that you need to meet, and you especially go up in weight, if you're at least 1 or 2 reps lower than the rep range, but just making sure that you actually can progress on that weight, don't stress about it too much, because the whole point of progression overload is to obviously get stronger. But at the same time, especially in an advanced lift as well, you'll notice that you're not going to be upping the load every single week. I feel like if you're a beginner, that's probably wise to do so. especially the fact that you do want to get strong as you start off with. But when you've been doing this for such a long time, in terms of progression-wise, it's not really the progression of only just load, but it's also mainly from both form and execution. Whether it's slowing down the eccentrics, getting more of a control on the concentric portion, pause reps and whatnot, as long as you're progressing in all types of matters within training is what builds muscle in general. So, especially when you're trying to get stronger as well, getting stronger is not always the best form of progression, especially if you're not really feeling the muscle working on as intended. But yeah, as long as you keep your form in check, making sure the execution is performed correctly, and also meeting the rep range as well, is when you get to move up the load and after you reset back to square one as well. So but yeah, that's probably the best way of progression you can ever do. So 10 to 12 reps. So see how it goes on a slightly lighter weight, just to really finish off this exercise for the day. Yep. So that's 2 sets done. Find our markers to start off with one of these exercises, especially in this particular brand. So next rotation, we'll be sure to hit whatever markers that we need to hit, just to make sure we're slowly progressing into the exercise itself. So yeah, that felt really good. Just constantly just digging the elbows deep in the torso as much as possible, just to really get the lats firing up. So I'd say we give it another couple weeks into this and be sure for my back to greatly improve as we go. So but yeah, we're gonna go to the second exercise and we do some form of bilateral cable rows, cable pullovers, sorry. All right, so second exercise for the day is a bit of bilateral cable pullovers. The only reason why we're doing bilateral in this case, because my right lat is actually a lot bigger than my left lat. So by doing any sort of bilateral work, just allows you to actually target the weaker, or I guess the more asymmetrical side of your muscle group to really get a little more volume on top of that. So for me, I actually get a little bit more reps on my left side and actually start on my left side just to kind of get as much energy as I can to really hit it properly. And then I'll switch it onto my right side as well on top of that. But the execution always stays the same. Making sure that you match your form from the very start of the rep to the very last rep and just make it as identical as much as possible. The only key difference is simply the speed of the movement as you go, because that's when mechanical tension is getting properly placed. So if you can really match your reps all the way through and making it look the same, but it's more about the effort that can actually get some more exerted as you go on, is where mechanical tension gets the most effort out of it. So 2 sets of this, and then after that, we'll get straight on to our next exercise. Okay. So it's a bit of a warm-up set, just kind of get the movement into place. But if you do notice, is that I'm doing a slight tilt when we hit on the side of my lat I'm working on. It's more just for the stability purposes. And because I'm kind of tilted slightly to the side, yes, my lats do shorten just a little bit, but I'm actually purposely pulling myself up all the way to the very top of the portion of the stretch, just to make sure that my lats are both in a lengthened position and also the shortened position. There's no point having to shorten your lat and just kind of pulling it midpoint through. And that's simply because you're not getting that lengthened portion. Because in order for your lats to work, you need to go through all range of motions from the lengthened portion to the shortened motion. So, but yeah, there's nothing wrong with getting a slight tilt of shortening your lats just for a bit of stability, just as long as you're overly compensated by just getting more of a stretch at the very top of the movement, just to make sure that your lats get lengthened. So, but yeah, we'll do two sets of this. First set will be between 8 to 10 reps. And again, second set will be sets of 10 to 12. It's like, it's a fucking hot box in the gym because today is around like 35 degrees. So even before I'm remotely getting to the gym, I'm just fucking sweating a bunch as well. Ian Lehman here is fucking sweating up as well. He's not been working out. But it's great to put on a bit of sweat, especially during Christmas holidays, just to really get things fired up. Okay. Yep. That was a good set. It's a bit challenging with this one because the tension profile is actually a lot more heavier at the very bottom of the movement, which means it actually requires you to really try to pull as hard as you can and try to keep the stability as tight as possible. But I do much prefer that, to be quite honest. And it also really depends on the movement as well. But in this case, with the pullover, I'd rather get all the heavy tension at the very bottom of the portion, just to really exert as much effort as I can and make sure that the lats are working at its absolute best at that bottom range as well. So yeah, it was a good starting point. Next set was go a little bit lighter and try to hit at least 10 to 12. All right, so considering the fact that summer is actually around now, you are going to be sweating a lot more profusely as usual. So as you sweat, obviously you do sweat by a combination of water, salt, and potassium. So with me, especially during the summer, to kind of keep me in baseline, I'll drink an extra liter of water. I'll also actually bump up my sodium and potassium intake around 500 to 750 milligrams of both sodium and potassium, just to kind of keep myself a baseline. Because the last thing you want to do, or actually want to feel in the off season, is just feeling flat because you've been sweating out so much. So to kind of do a bit of advice, just add either an extra liter of water, bump up your sodium and potassium by between 500 to 750 milligrams in total, just to keep you at baseline and still get a good nicely pump and still feeling a lot better throughout the summertime as well. So, because yeah, nothing is more important than keeping electrolytes well in balance. Okay. That was a little bit more reps than usual in the second set, but at least I know to actually go up and load because the execution was consistent all throughout that set. So that's when you know you can actually bump up the load. So third exercise now, we're going towards the Smith machine chest water row and do 2 sets of that. So one of my favorite exercises of all time. Yep. All right, so with the chest water row, my usual favorite cue on this particular piece is instead of trying to keep your chest on the pad, I'm kind of imagining myself, I'm actually pulling myself into the pad. So that way I can still kind of secure my hips into the pad, but at the same time, not overly thinking about keeping my chest on the pad and more so just kind of bring myself into the pad. So that way I can actually exert as much force as I can and really hit my mid traps and also a bit of my lats as well. So now in terms of handle grips, again, usually depends on the individual. For me, I kind of like go on a slight angle on the hand placement, just so that I can really tuck in my elbows and really hit my mid traps and also a bit of my lats as well. And try to avoid too much work on my rear delts as well, considering it is, again, my shoulders is quite a strong point on my physique. So yeah, try to build as much density on this machine. And yeah, we'll be doing at least 2 sets between between 10 to 12 in total. And yeah, really get fucking strong on this particular machine. So let's get to it. Yep. All right. All right, so I just did one warm-up set on this because it's kind of like the second time using this machine. So not sure if 4 plates on each side is actually heavy in this case, but we'll see how it goes, honestly. But I reckon we'll get at least between 8 to 10 on this set. On this set. But yeah, just trying to get used to the movement. It's just vastly different to your conventional chest supported T-bar row, whether with this Smith machine row is a very consistent straight line pull, which means you actually get a lot more stability out of it. So, but yeah, we'll see how this goes. And yeah, if it feels great, then we'll stick to the adjustment form on this machine. The only bad thing about being 5'8" with a short reach is like you can't really grab onto shit.
So we're going to do our best to get this in. Okay. Yep. Yeah, my grip gave way. I couldn't really get my grip onto it because I've got such a short reach. Probably just go a little bit lighter and just the padding, just so I can actually really grab onto it. So, but yeah, that's a shitty perk of being short in bodybuilding. You can't grab onto shit. Yep, that's better. That felt much better. I think it's just a seat padding. Just got to find that right angle when hitting it. So I think with me is as soon as I kind of get a slight lift off of the first initial rep, I just get deep, just deep enough to stretch on the very bottom without getting too much without too much protraction in the scapula, and still be able to keep my chest on the pad and getting a more natural movement in my scapula, retraction in the scapula. So considering it is our third set, definitely go a lot more lighter and just making sure that we're just controlling the rep as we go. So yeah, that felt real nice. So we'll just do one more set of this and then we'll move on. Yep. Yep. Oh, that felt a lot better. Yeah, this adjustment will be really good. Yeah, and obviously, as you can see as well, I'm not really trying to keep my chest onto the pad. I'm actually just pulling myself in, which is actually a lot harder to pull. But for me, I actually feel a lot more in my mid traps, a little my upper traps, and also where my lower lats as well. But yeah, like there's nothing wrong, just kind of get that slight lift off in your chest, especially at the end of the set. But with me, my back is such a weak point for me. So whatever adjustments I can make to not only make the movement harder, but just to make sure that execution is well set in place all throughout the set. So if I can get strong in this, in hitting the exact same form, the exact same execution, then I'm sure that my back will come up with this. So, but yeah, that was a real good set. And then now, do a bit of rear delts and a bit of biceps. All right, so now we've gone to rear delts. Now for this particular machine, I actually don't grab it on the handles. I'm actually pushing off basically the side of my palm. So that way, I'm not getting too much fatigue in my forearms, considering the fact, over the years as being an on-site glazier, I managed to develop my forearms, but in turn, I kind of in place of not getting enough endurance on my forearms, so there's a lot of lactic acid built up in that sense. So I kind of just hold it basically right there, so where my palm is hitting onto the machine. So that way, I can actually shorten my rear delts while getting some form of lengthening portion of it, and I don't have to overly drag out to the very top end of the rep.
I can just simply stop it around like 3/4 of the way and still get that tension profile on my rear delts. So the whole point of it is just to get shortening on the rear delts in this case. So yeah, simple 2 sets of this to really get the rear delts fired up. And you also notice as well, I'm actually sitting slightly, pulling my hips away from the pad to keep my chest on, just to really make sure that I'm not really pulling off from my erectors, but purely just from my rear delts and my traps. Yep. And you also notice as well, during a warm-up set, I'm actually retracting my traps up so I can really just get my rear delts to fire up as well. And that way, I'm not really getting that constant contraction onto my traps, because traps is one of my strong body parts on my back. So by just getting that full retraction on my traps and just pulling purely from my rear delts and just getting more of a shortening range on it, my rear delts are able to pop fire up a lot more properly as well. So one was done, now we get straight to the set. Two sets done. Now let's get to the simple bicep movements, and then we'll do some posing after it. Okay. All right, so first bicep exercise is going to be a single arm D handle bicep curl. Now instead of facing towards the cable, you don't really get much of a tension profile, especially the lengthened portion. So I actually do it away from the cable, so that way I can actually sit myself forward across the cable and get that nice stretch onto my bicep, and making sure that my hand placement is in line with my shoulders, so that way I get more natural curling pattern onto my biceps as well. The last thing you want to do is kind of keep it close by and not really getting that nice lengthened position. So by just keeping everything in line with your shoulders and just simply keeping your arms at around 90 degrees, or perhaps even slightly shorter than that. It doesn't have to be full, you don't have to get a full stretch in biceps. By just keeping that constant tension there and just curling up, and you're shortening the biceps. That's all you're doing. You don't have to get that overstretched portion of the biceps, because it's not going to benefit out of you, and it's going to relieve a lot of tension on your biceps. It's going to put straight into your front delts, especially in this position as well. So just keeping your arms at around 90 degrees or slightly less than that, and just shorten the biceps. That's all you need to do for biceps. It's not that complicated.
Yep. It's a good stretch. Yep. Yep. Whew. Oh, that burns. Just simply shorten that range. There's a whole different level of pump on your biceps. And that was only in the first set as well. And I was supposed to target for 10 to 12 reps, I got 15. So definitely next rotation is go slightly heavier. And that's I can control the eccentric portion just a little bit slower, including the concentric portion. But again, every single week as you train is always quite subjective. You might have 1 week where everything else all firing up, your pre-cues towards the set is well in place, and the week later after that, it goes to shit. So, hence why earlier, it's so important to record your set, not only from just recording your set from videos, but also just keeping notes down, whether you have like a notepad or you have a training app as well. Just keeping key notes in there of the cues that you need to take before each working set. Also, even just like the adjustments you're making on the machinery, just so you can memorize on the exact same placements as you're doing, just to make sure the movements are consistent as much as possible. Because when you sort of progression in the gym, especially in bodybuilding, there's consistency is going to take you more further than any sort of motivational package that you'll be watching on YouTube. And especially when you have days where you have really shit days, those days count the most, because anyone can train on a good fucking day, including myself. But if you can make a really shit day a good day of training, that's what makes good athletes. You just come in here purely from a disciplinary aspect and not from a motivation aspect. And it doesn't matter if you're feeling fucking depressed, sad, upset, just come into the gym and just let that shit go. It's such a great mental aspect in training. And it puts you in more of a positive light into everything. And it teaches you on how to use negative emotions or negative feedback into a more positive outcome. And going to the gym is a great example for that. So for 2026, for anyone out there that's feeling like shit, just go to the gym and rep and fucking tear. That's the one motto you should be taking towards you all throughout the year. Yep, that's better. Yep. If you notice, as I'm doing my bicep curls, I'm actually keeping my wrist straight. And in terms of where you're pulling your palms, it's most important as well. For me, I'm actually pulling mainly towards my pinky, my index and my middle finger, just so I can really get my biceps to really activate as I'm curling through. Certain individuals might be different. You might feel it more if you're putting more pressure between your middle, index and your thumb. With me, I just get more pressure on my biceps. I'm pulling from my pinky, my index, and my ring finger. So, but yeah, in terms of how you're gripping, it is very important and how you kind of be feeling the muscle group. For example, if I'm benching, I'm kind of imagining I'm breaking the bar as I'm bench, so that way I can not only get my elbows adducted in close to my torso, but just make sure that I'm actually pushing at certain points of my palm just to really get my chest activated. Same deal with like bicep curls, or whether it's tricep extensions, or any sort of pressing movements. Where you push from your palms dictates on where certain points of the muscle that you're going to be exerting and actually getting it executed and working well on the exercise. So, but yeah, that all comes in just experimenting and how it plays out. So yeah, if you're doing any sort of pressing or pulling movements, just see which point in your hands feels best for you to pull or push. Last exercise of the day, just simple hammer curls. Nothing really into it really. The only key difference is how I'm pulling my hammer curls is I'm kind of just pulling slightly in towards the center line for me. So that way I'm getting a little more forearms, but also within a bit of my outer portions for my biceps as well. Considering that it is a bit of a weak point for me. So, but yeah, nothing to it, pretty simple stuff. Just controlling the eccentrics and just shorten the biceps as we go. And we're gonna be using more of a thick grip dumbbells this time as well, just so I don't have to use too much of a heavy weights in this case. Yep. Yep. Oh, that burns. The shit thing about being a former glazer, you might get big forearms, but you have the most shittiest forearm endurance. So even just gripping 17.5 kilos on thicker handles, man, that killed my forearms completely. But it felt real nice on the biceps. So we'll probably go slightly heavier, go up to 20 kilos. Most likely get between like 8 to 10 reps in the next set. But yeah, just trying to power it out on the last bit of the workout for the day. And then yeah, we'll follow with a bit of posing in the end. And then it's time to eat. Yep, that's it. That's it for the day. Biceps is pumped, back is pumped, fully hydrated, fucking hungry, that's for sure. And then now we're just gonna complete that the whole day off with a bit of posing, get some beef and rice. Oh, yep. Posing is fucking tiring. It's all a different animal. But that's why you got to keep your posing routine up every single week. Doesn't matter you're in your off season, doesn't matter in prep. You just got to keep on top of it. So, and even just one round of that's fucking tiring. So, but yeah, that's the end of today's vlog. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Comment down below of what you want to see next. Until then, keep ripping and tearing.